Relax and take notes while I take totes of the marijuana smoke. Throw you in a choke, gun smoke. Biggie Smalls for mayor, the rap slayer, the hooker layer. Motherfucker, say your prayers. Hail Mary, full of grace. Smack the bitch in the face, take her Gucci bag and a North Face off her back. Jab her if she act funny with the money. Oh, you got me mistaken, honey. I don't wanna rape ya, I just want the paper, the visa, the pisha. I'm out like the vapors. Who's the one?
The 310-pound inmate pointed at Rocky Balboa and said one thing: "This yard belongs to me." Rocky did not answer with words. He answered with something nobody in that yard ever forgot. This is the story of the day one man tried to own everything and met the one person who could not be owned. If you are new here, hit subscribe. We drop these stories every single day. The prison yard at Rockview Correctional Facility was not a place where men came to relax. It was a place where men came to survive. Every square foot of that concrete rectangle had a meaning. Every bench, every corner near the fence, every spot close to the weight equipment. All of it was spoken for, and the man who had spoken for most of it was named Dex Malone. Dex Malone was 34 years old and had been inside Rockview for 6 years. He stood 6 feet and 4 inches tall and weighed 310 pounds of solid, unmistakable muscle. His arms were the size of most men's legs. His shoulders were wide enough to block a doorway without trying. He did not walk through the prison yard. He moved through it the way a ship moves through a harbor, slowly, deliberately, with the full understanding that everything around him existed on his terms. For 6 years, Dex had built something inside those walls that most men spend their whole lives chasing on the outside. He had respect, not the kind you ask for, not the kind someone gives you out of kindness, the kind that gets carved out of silence and held in place by the memory of what happens to men who test it. Nobody sat in Dex's corner of the yard without an invitation. Nobody used the weight bench closest to the east wall between 2 in the afternoon and 4 in the afternoon without permission. These were not written rules. They did not need to be. When the transport van arrived on a Tuesday morning in late October, most of the yard did not pay attention. New transfers came in every few weeks. They came in scared or they came in pretending not to be scared, and either way, the yard absorbed them the same way it absorbed everything else, quietly, without ceremony, and with the patient certainty that within a few days, the new arrival would understand exactly where he stood and exactly what was expected of him. But this particular Tuesday was different. Rocky Balboa stepped off that transport van and into the intake processing area of Rockview Correctional Facility, carrying nothing but the clothes on his back and a stillness in his eyes that the intake officer would later describe to a colleague as the kind of quiet that makes you check over your shoulder. Rocky was not the biggest man in the room. He was not the tallest, but there was something in the way he stood. Feet slightly apart, shoulders relaxed, chin level, that made the space around him feel different from the space around everyone else. Word moved through Rockview the way word always moves through a closed institution, fast, and without anyone being able to explain exactly how it got from one end to the other. By the time the afternoon yard period began and the cell block doors opened, every inmate in general population knew that Rocky Balboa had been transferred in. Some of them knew the name from before. Some of them knew it from a long time before. All of them understood, in the wordless way that men inside understand things, that the arrival of someone like Rocky Balboa was not a neutral event. Dex Malone heard the name before lunch. He was sitting at his usual table in the cafeteria when one of the men in his circle leaned over and said it quietly. Dex did not react right away. He finished what he was eating. He set down his fork. He thought about it the way a man thinks about something that requires a response rather than a reaction. Then he nodded once and said nothing else. The yard opened at 1:30 in the afternoon. Rocky came out with the rest of cell block D and stood near the entrance for a moment, taking in the layout. He had been in enough difficult places in his life to know that the first thing you do when you enter a new space is understand it. Where the edges are, where the open ground is, where the weight of the room is heaviest. He scanned the yard once, slowly, and within about 40 seconds he had a reasonable map of how things worked. The corner near the east wall was Dex's. The bench closest to the fence was neutral. The open stretch of concrete near the basketball hoop was where the general population moved freely. Rocky walked toward the open stretch and found a spot along the fence where he could move, stay loose, keep his body from going stiff the way it always threatened to when he was not training. He started moving through some footwork. Nothing dramatic, just a man staying alive in the only way he knew how. That was when Dex walked over. He did not come alone in the sense that the yard was full of men who watched him move and adjusted their own movements according. But he approached Rocky without his usual circle at his sides. This was intentional. Dex was not a man who needed backup for a conversation. He crossed the yard in long, unhurried strides and stopped about 6 feet from where Rocky was moving and stood there until Rocky stopped and looked at him. The yard got quieter. Not silent, not yet, but the volume dropped in the specific way it drops when men sense that something significant is about to happen and they do not want to miss it. Dex looked at Rocky for a long moment without speaking. Then, he pointed one thick finger directly at him and said it plainly and without any particular emotion in his voice. "This yard belongs to me." Rocky looked at the finger. Then he looked at Dex. He did not look away. He did not look around to see who was watching. He kept his eyes on Dex with an expression that was not aggressive and was not afraid and was not anything that Dex had seen on a man's face in a very long time. "Heard you," Rocky said. "Then act like it," Dex said. Rocky was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I am not here to take anything from you. I am here to do my time and go home. That is it." Dex tilted his head slightly. "That is what they all say." "Maybe," Rocky said, "but I mean it." Dex studied him. The yard was very quiet now. Men had drifted closer without appearing to drift closer, the way they always do when something worth watching is happening. Dex had seen hundreds of men come through Rockview. He had seen scared men pretend to be calm. He had seen calm men pretend to be scared. What he was looking at right now did not fit either of those categories, and that fact registered somewhere behind his eyes, even if his face did not show it. "You are going to walk to the other side of this yard," Dex said, "and you are going to stay on that side." Rocky did not move. The silence in the yard became the kind of silence that has a weight to it. Dex took one step forward. Rocky did not step back. The distance between them was now close enough that every man watching understood that whatever happened next was going to happen fast and would be over before most of them could process it. Dex reached out and put one hand flat against Rocky's chest and pushed. Not a punch, a push. The kind of push that is a question more than an attack. It said, "What are you going to do about this?" Rocky absorbed it. He did not stumble. He took one small step back to manage the force, and then he was still again. His hands came up. Not wild, not panic. They came up the way a man's hands come up when he has spent the better part of his life learning exactly where they belong. What happened next took less time than it takes to describe it. Dex swung. It was a big right hand, the kind that had ended conversations for him many times before inside these walls. It was heavy and it was committed, and it arrived at the exact spot where Rocky Balboa's head had been a fraction of a second earlier. Rocky was no longer in that spot. He had moved, just slightly, just enough, and the counter came from a place Dex never saw. A short, compact left hook that connected at the jaw with a precision that had nothing to do with anger and everything to do with 30 years of understanding exactly how force travels through a human body. Dex Malone's legs stopped working. He did not fall dramatically. He went down the way a very large, very heavy thing goes down when the structure holding it up is suddenly and completely removed. He hit the concrete on one knee first, then sat back, and then he was still. The yard was absolutely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The men who had been watching stood exactly where they were standing, and the only sound was the distant noise of a guard radio somewhere near the east tower. Rocky stood where he was. He looked down at Dex for a moment. Then he lowered his hands. He took a breath. He turned and walked back to the spot along the fence where he had been moving through his footwork before any of this began, and he started moving again, same rhythm, same quiet, as if the previous 3 minutes had been a brief interruption in an otherwise unremarkable afternoon. Nobody said anything to Rocky that day. Nobody stood in his path. Nobody told him where he could or could not stand in the yard. Dex Malone was helped to the infirmary by 2 of the men who had watched everything happen. He had a bruised jaw and a harder bruise somewhere deeper that would take longer to heal. When the attending medical staff asked him what happened, he told them he slipped on the concrete near the weight equipment. The guard who filed the report noted that the ground was dry and that the weather had been clear all afternoon. He filed the report anyway. Within 48 hours, the story of what had happened in the yard had traveled to every cell block in Rockview. The details changed slightly depending on who was telling it, the way details always change. But the essential truth of it did not change. A 310-pound man who had owned that yard for 6 years had reached out and tested Rocky Balboa, and Rocky Balboa had answered in the only language that particular question ever really has an answer in. Dex never approached Rocky again. He was released 14 months later. Rocky finished his time at Rockview with the same quiet he had arrived with. He did not build an empire inside those walls. He did not run anything or control anything or demand anything from anyone. He simply existed in that place the way he had always existed in hard places, fully, without apology, and with the patient knowledge that a man who knows who he is does not need anyone else to confirm it. The yard at Rockview belonged to everyone after that, which meant, in the way that things work inside a place like that it belonged to Rocky Balboa most of all. If this story hit different, if you felt that moment when the yard went silent and everything changed, then you are exactly who this channel is for. We tell the stories that do not make the evening news, the moments that happen inside 4 walls and travel by word of mouth for years. Rocky Balboa did not come to Rockview looking for a fight. He came to do his time and go home. But some places test every man who walks through the gate, and some men answer that test in a way nobody forgets. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because we drop a new story every single day. The next one is already waiting for you.